So, due to popular demand, I've been tasked to assign every race to a personality. Wow, that's a bad opening line. Anyway, welcome to the journey to discover the player behind the race, Dragonflight Edition. Who would have guessed that the race depicted as the brawny, bearded, sometimes crystallized, and planet-loving men would be your average Stellar enjoyer? No, not that kind of Stellar enjoyer. That would be such an awful thing to say about someone. What I'm saying is, Dwarf players are exactly like they are in-game. They love a good pint. Don't be surprised when a Dwarf player turns up to raid night an hour late with a bit of a slur in their speech. No, I don't mean they're drunkenly shouting slurs. And forget about 75% of their rotation. Okay, I know what you're probably thinking. This guy sounds like an asshole. Okay, yeah they are. But when they're in the raid, their drunken jolliness boosts morale even on the 50th wipe. And that's exactly why the raid leader keeps that drunken little fellow in the raid, even if he's too sloshed to remember mechanics. If you thought that I was going to say that this was the real Stellar drinkers, then my friend, you are mistaken. You see, the thing that makes Dark Iron Dwarves special is that they resonate with 38.2% of my audience. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, it's America time. Grab your mole machines and let's get some drilling. These dwarves are basically the American predecessor to their Scottish cousins. If it was up to these guys, the next expansion would be about building oil rig player housing, meanwhile oppressing the electric car market in-game. Because after all an American really needs is sails and really big fucking drills. The pot-bellied, drunken sailor race that lives and breathes the outward appearance of an alcoholic 40-year-old Englishman. Not only this, but they also have a racial ability that goes by the name of Haymaker. That's free advertisement for Stellar if I've ever seen it. As I'm sure we're all well aware by now, for every girl on the internet there is at least 3 incels and 2 Andrew Tate stans. Unfortunately, life as a gamer girl is a lot harder than normal, so they've adapted over the years to avoid the creepy and the sexist. I'm sure you're thinking to yourself, but girls only play Blood Elves or humans, and that's a stereotype that's so far from the truth. Girls play goblins. After all, who would expect a little green man to be a girl in real life? Nobody! It's genius! It's such innovation in camouflage technology that I bet not a single one of you could have predicted it. Oh, well, now I guess I just outed them, huh? Sorry, ladies. Okay, look. You know it, I know it. Human is the basic bitch race in the entire game. I mean, it's not exactly like humans took a lot of brain power to think of. Here is the typical human player. One-dimensional, unimaginative, and honestly just as boring as a person can get. At surface level, that is. Beneath the surface lies a trapped and doomed soul. Every human player designs their character to be who or what they wish they were. A truly sad and trivial existence of self-torment. They look in the mirror every morning and are disappointed that instead of no bitches Tauren Mill looking back, instead it's a greasy gamer. They just can't face the reality that they can't just simply slay 101 Iron Horde orcs for a pair of boots in real life, while looking all heroic and sexy like. Sometimes they simply just need to be told, bro, it's just a fucking game. Go outside, touch grass, live life. But they won't. So here's the thing with Blood Elves. They're basically the humans of the Horde. As the closest thing to a human, it means that everybody that wants to create themselves in-game but wants to play Horde automatically just kind of becomes one. The only really noticeable differences are the following. They have an additional class, which you know is kind of the best one in the game. The men are a lot prettier, which is, you know, quite helpful. And they're Horde, so, you know. I mean, I guess the conclusion is really that Blood Elf players are just like human players, but with less of a skill issue. Okay, so picture this. You live in a major city, such as London, New York, or Seoul. Now picture you're also in the midst of COVID, and you can't even leave your city. Now picture that is your reality for 10,000 years. If you lived 10,000 years like that, you too would probably suffer from agoraphobia, just like the Nightborne. Due to the in-game nature of the Nightborne, and their fear of the outside world, they attract players of the same issues. Nightborne players are those dudes that have been inside and playing since 2004. This behaviour has caused them to develop all sorts of social problems. I'm sorry to tell you, but by now Nightborne players have gone so long without touching grass that they can't even interact with other people anymore. All they know from now on is what the voices are telling them. That's all they have left, and the voices are constantly saying and reinforcing, just keep grinding and everything will be okay. Nothing bad will happen if you just keep grinding. Huh. I guess Nightborne players would be excellent strippers then. Okay, yeah, you guys got me. Worgen hasn't fundamentally changed in years. They're still furries. In all seriousness though, these furries are a special kind of furries. They're actually kind. When they aren't busy on VR chat, they can often be found dungeon boosting for their friends, giving advice for lobbies, and keeping up the group's morale in dungeons with their positive energy. There's nothing really to worry about with these guys. They just want friends and acceptance. Take everything you just learned about the Worgen and just throw it out of the window. Vulpera represent everything that most furries hate for giving them a really bad rep. They run around all day just trying to hump the leg of any player with devious and devilish intentions. They do what they do because they know it pisses everyone off around them. But you know what's funny? They aren't exactly the true villains. It's Blizzard for ruining a once great faction with a bunch of losers with horrible lore, horrible players, and a horribly low amount of bitches. The only reason they're even in the Horde is so that the Worgen don't bully them. But seriously, Blizzard, give us furries, whatever, I don't care, just don't give us the fucking idiot ones. Funny part is I know some actual furries are going to end up watching this and they're either going to completely hate me or completely love me. Wait, Dracthyr? But the Dracthyr are mutually exclusive to the Evoker and I already did the Evoker's personality, so doesn't that kind of mean this is irrelevant? Sorry guys, but until, you know, they have a new class or something, they're still just people that just want to play the new class because they're bored or just scalies. I mean, maybe I'll make a short or I'll make a tweet if something happens. This is more of a Blizzard thing, not a me thing. I'd go to them about this one, please. Have you ever played Mythic Plus at 3 AM before? I wouldn't blame you if you haven't, because it's a little bit weird. That's because it's when all the troll players are online. Troll players are the average uni first year stoner student, the type of student that spends all their money on weed and WoW subs. They wake up at 2 PM and sleep at 5 AM, and before they go to bed at 3 AM, they like to have a spliff and head into an M+. And it's pretty much a rinse and repeat cycle. It's the only reason why you only see troll players at 3 AM. Don't worry though, they're always kind people, even if their reaction times are a little bit slow for some reason. The Draenei players are a special breed of gamer that was forged many moons ago. Picture this, back in the old days, maybe RAF time, a young and impressionable teen, just looking for friends, joins a random guild. This isn't your average WoW guild, it's one that likes to share shady links between each other back and forth. I suppose that is kind of a normal WoW guild then, isn't it? Unfortunately, our little friend here is the young and impressionable teenager that was dumb enough to click the links. So long story short, here they are now, playing as a hentai goat man. It really does say a lot about a person. Ugh, gnomes. Can you think of anything more annoying than these little shits? Yeah, didn't think so. You've got to be a real sicko if you play one of these. No, really, you've got to be a real subhuman piece of shit. Luckily, I've been working with the brightest among the ranks of the Goblin engineers to create the product of the century. I call it the Orbital Cannon of Mass Gnome Annihilation. If one of these won't deal with the gnome problem, nothing will. And here's the best part, luckily for you, you can earn one yourself just by liking and subscribing. If anything, you gotta admit, I'm pretty creative with it. Okay, so I have a confession to make. While working with the Goblin engineers, we also used brainwashing techniques and dabbled in some robotic enhancement to create the ultimate predator to the average WoW player. Why, you may ask?
Well, some people didn't take my last segment seriously and chose not to like and subscribe. For those of you that decided not to do my bidding, you have until the end of this video to change your decision, or it's the curtains for you, buddy.
Ugh, Jesus. So yeah, Mechagnome players, pretty chill dudes. Psychologists for years have been analysing the mind of the new player and still can't figure out why they always seem to play as pandas. Their best theory is that because they're new to the game, the Kung Fu Panda jokes aren't old to them, so they just find it absolutely hilarious to run around as a panda. Of course, by the point that they actually get good at the game, the Kung Fu Panda jokes just aren't that funny anymore and they just look like idiots. That of course would encourage them to change race. I mean, it would explain the lack of smart Pandaren anyway. As I'm sure we are all aware, in lore, the orcs drank the fell. Pretty fucking stupid considering it was clearly evil. While the players are just as stupid. Just like the orcs taking a drug promising strength, the player followed in their footsteps by taking steroids to be just as big and manly as their character, without really processing what exactly the side effects would be. They truly are the living and breathing embodiment of the orc, dumb enough to take the drug and roid raging in the raid, especially when it's their fault. Don't worry though, if one ever threatens you, don't fear. I mean seriously, do you honestly think that idiot would be able to find your IP address? The Mag'har took a different path to the original orc. Like the Mag'har themselves, the player refused the promise of strength through drugs, and went the genuine way. These guys go to the gym 3 days a week before they play WoW, and god are they reaping the benefits. By doing exercise and working out, they gained great mental health, they gained more friends by having non-WoW things to talk about, and now they get bitches. We should all learn a lesson from these orcs, and take our own journey of self-improvement. But then again, I could just do that raid. The Zandalari are basically the rich. Just like in-game, the player of this race has lots of money, and it likes to show it off. They play WoW in their mansions with their 20 grand PC setup, where they have their personal butler to bring them food and a bucket to make sure they never have to leave their gaming setup. It's always great to have one of these in the raid because they bought enough WoW tokens to supply everyone with the unlimited amount of potions that they want from the auction house. And just like the Zandalari, they too like to put the poor in their place. Although the Darkspear trolls are normally too stoned to care. You know, we've said a lot about trolls in this video, but the Night Elves are the real trolls. Maybe it's because they come from trolls, but regardless, they're smart. So smart that they'll wait until the last 10% of the boss fight and cause an intentional raid wipe. And because they're so smart, nobody will know it was them, and they'll just sit there, in their desk chair, relishing in everyone's suffering. They are true evil. It's why I personally limit my pre-mades to Horde only. Tauren are a simple player base. They just want to amuse you. So much so that they milk their jokes dry. They just want to make sure that you heard. Seriously though, they're not trying to annoy you. They don't want any beef. I've got more, but I'll save you the agony. I know the stakes are high. I'm sorry to inform you of this new information, but just like their race, the Lightforged players are basically cultists. If you don't know what I mean, to unlock the Mag'har you need to basically help the Mag'har stop the Lightforged from murdering everything on Draenor that doesn't serve the light. Sounds pretty culty to me, and the player of this race has of course picked up this trait, and plays WoW from whatever cult hideaway they're living in. They use WoW as a new method to gain cult members. They're able to use guilds to rope in the most desperate among the WoW players, just wanting friends. From there it's an easy task for them to slowly and successfully change the views of the members and turn them into a new Lightforged cultist. So if you're a lonely loser, you better watch out. But hey, you clicked on this video, so you're no loser. That's how that works, right? If there is one thing I know about the Undead players, it's that their ego is about as large as the solar system itself. If they do something good, well, you bet your sweet ass they're gonna remind you how much better they are than you. Oh, and it's one thing if it's just a bunch of DPS undeads bragging. Oh boy, you wait until you find an undead healer. If you're not reinforcing their ego at every given moment, they will refuse to heal you, make you seem like the idiot, and you'll be kicked. So please, just do yourself a favor, and just stroke the ego. Void Elf players exist for one reason and one reason only, to piss off the Blood Elf players. Since they're basically Blood Elves but with some added cool customization and cool racials, it really does just spit in the faces of Blood Elf players when they see one, and the Void Elves know it. And to really rub salt in the wound, the reasoning is just fucking mid. Blizzard really just said, well, the Blood Elves don't like them because of the Void, when Blood Elf, Warlocks, and Shadow Priests exist. Like, I get that Illyria's alliance or whatever, so it does kinda make sense in some way, but we also have some fucking Shadow Priests that you could get some counseling from if you really feel like you're gonna go too tentacle hentai up in this place. We did it. We finally made it to the last race, and boy is it a good one to end on. The GigaChad race, that is few in numbers because of its high expectation of its players. The most humble of all the player base, and is always consistently on top of the DPS meters. They lead fearlessly and always have high item level, the true Highmountain spirit. Unlike the normal Tauren, they know that stupid cow jokes are dumb and unfunny, and the community praises them for it. Here's a chart, and here's another chart, and now you know why Highmountain Tauren is the best thing since the cold side of the pillow. And now you need to click on this video to discover the player behind the class.